Just a sense of encouragement that oftentimes when we're talking about securing these types of corporate clients, we have a lack of confidence regardless of how great we've done in other areas of our business and life, just because there's a little bit more unknown. But I can promise you that just like I've shown you today, if you do a few things right, it's not hard to be successful in this area. And the more you do things, the more you see that things work, that your confidence will go up. What I would say to you is that we're almost halfway through 2025. Don't let 2026 come around and you haven't at least put your toe in the water to begin to learn how you can really create these scalable and predictable income streams in your business. Because shame on you if you don't at least figure out how to start and try before you write it off. Because I can promise you that it will feed you forever if you can learn how to bring in these dollars.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is a founder, income, and influence strategist of the influence economy, Shayna Davis. She leads a multimedia and training company dedicated to helping ambitious women own their influence and elevate their income. So excited to have her on. Shayna, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for asking. We always get to ask our guests, tell us about your journey. What were you doing before that kind of led you into what you're doing today?
I was an accidental entrepreneur, and maybe not the definition that many people give. When I often hear people talk about being an accidental entrepreneur, I lost my job in some capacity, and then I just tried to figure out what do I want to do next. Mine was actually a little bit different. I went to school to be an occupational therapist, and all these different companies were help us out. And how in the world am I supposed to service all of these companies? It's just me. A friend of mine who was in physical therapy school at the exact same time that I was in occupational therapy school was like, well, you don't get it. You just get the contract. And then you hire other therapists and you basically get paid every time they go out because you bill the customer $85 a visit, you pay them 40 and you keep the 45. And that sounds like a business model that I like. As a result of that, within 90 days, I already had 23 therapists that were working for me. And so lo and behold, I'm an agency owner, which obviously I didn't go to therapy school to own an agency, but that's just kind of what happened. And by default, people were coming to me like, how do you start a business? How do you grow a business? And I was coaching people before I had any idea what a business coach was. Like I'd never heard of a coach in reference to anything that wasn't athletes or vocal coach. But in terms of business coaching, I didn't even know what that was. I quickly realized that I had a knack for not just being able to do things successfully, but being able to teach other people what it is that I did. Because one of the things I've learned is that just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean that you also have the skill set in order to be able to teach someone how to do that. I kind of love this. Not only do I feel I can do this, I really felt like there was a calling for me to do that. And I started off becoming a general business coach. And then I segued into I don't want to have another conversation with a business owner. I would love to work with you, but I just can't afford to pay you. That was draining, nor was it sustainable. I figured to myself at the time, if I'm teaching a business owner how to be productive and efficient, couldn't I teach a leader inside of a corporation the exact same thing, knowing that those companies do value investing in their people and they do have the money to pay you? The downside of it was if anyone out there that knew how to teach you how to land a corporate contract, how to land a corporate sponsor. After I spent about 18 months figuring it out, I just thought, I really want to be committed to showing other business owners how they can do two things. One, they can take the same level of expertise that they're already selling to individual consumers and get bigger clients that are going to give you bigger checks, or the things that you're already doing in your business, getting a corporation to write you a sponsorship check so that you're not bootstrapping every single thing in your business. And once I learned that, it was just off to the races. When you fast forward to where I'm at in business now, I've been podcasting for 5 years. My podcast is in the top 3% in the world. And I realized how much easier it is for me to get a corporate client now that I have a show. If you look at where I started in 2006 to where I am now, I work with business owners and podcast hosts to show them that the business model that's really going to put you in a position to stop stepping over dollars to get to dimes is to learn how to build a business that these bigger companies are going to give you bigger checks.
Absolutely. That is such an incredible journey and exactly the reason we wanted to have you on the show because our audience is business owners, marketers, entrepreneurs, people who are trying to build themselves up and in different stages of their journey. And a lot of those instances, they haven't learned yet or they're just
Yeah.
starting to learn. A lot of business owners are trying to get to that next level. They want to land bigger clients, get paid a fair and this larger amount. And you've cracked this code here, but there's many different ways to go about it. But I feel you've kind of developed this own system. Can you tell me more about how you spearhead that approach?
Absolutely. It all starts by how we position ourselves. And you have to create what I call a transcendent brand. You can think of a transcendent brand as an umbrella. And what you're doing is you're asking yourself, what are the broader themes of my area of expertise or what it is that I'm really helping people with? Take myself, for example. Even though my podcast is in the top 3%, and even though podcasting is central to my strategy, I don't brand myself as a podcasting expert. I brand myself as an influence expert. And teaching a business owner or a podcast host how to land these high value opportunities is just one way that I serve the arena of influence. And the reason why that's important is because if I'm looking for mass market opportunities, if I want a corporate client, if I want a traditional book deal, if I want to be in major media, I can't just brand myself as a small niche expert. I need to look at it in broader themes. If you look at myself as influence, yes, I can teach you how to make serious money from your influence to build yourself as a thought leader that's going to be able to get these type of deals. But a corporation could also bring me in to say, how do you help our leaders to improve their thought leadership and their executive presence? You know, the Today Show, let's just say it's March and it's Women's History Month. I want you to come on and talk about how a woman can own her voice, how she can own her influence. If you notice, one of those is very specific and the other is scalable. You first have to ask yourself, what is it that you're really helping people with? For me, I'm not just helping you with your podcast or your business, I'm helping you with your influence. And that makes you much more attractive to the mass markets. That's the very first step, is to recognize if you already have a message, if you already have skills or expertise, what is the more broader general arena that you're actually operating in instead of just one small sliver of how it is that you can help your niche?
Absolutely. And I think something that you mentioned that's really important is just considering this as influence. We're trying to put ourselves out there. Either we want to do more inbound organic strategies and get people to come to us, or we're doing some outbound and we're wondering, how do I make an influence on this person or get in front of the right people? I love the approach of thinking of it as influence because that kind of shifts the perspective a bit when you take that perspective with it.
Yeah. You have to think about what is it for you, because everyone that's listening, their umbrella is not influence. You have to ask yourself, if this is the way that I'm currently serving clients, what area am I really helping? Let me just give another concrete example. Let's say that you are a health coach and you teach moms how to lose weight. That is a very specific niche, but your umbrella brand or your transcendent brand, as I like to call it, could potentially be women's total health or women's total well being. You notice how one is very specific. The Today Show is not likely to bring you on for that. They could. A book deal is going to make a lot more sense if I'm talking about women's well being, because they're like, listen, any woman could buy this that is interested in their well being. It doesn't just have to be a mom that's looking to lose weight. You just have to ask yourself, what is the broader theme of the area that I'm really helping people in? And from there, it's just about packaging your positioning yourself so that you can show a person how you can help them solve a problem, just like you're already talking about what it is that you're doing now in your current business. That's the beauty of it, Chris, that this is not a far segue off. It's not switching directions. It's really just adding a different layer into what it is that you're already doing. And usually it's just a 15-degree shift. It's usually not like this complete overhaul.
Now, for those who are potentially interested, but maybe they find themselves being on the introverted end, do you need to be really good at public speaking? Do you need to be extroverted? Do you need to have a personality to be successful in this, or can that skill set be taught and learned?
It can absolutely be taught and learned. And the other thing is, just like anything else in business, you don't have to be forward facing in order to be able to land business. The exact same strategies that you're using to get your foot in the door with a client now are the same types of strategies that you can use. You can produce content, sometimes even faceless if that's your jam. But what the most important thing is that, can you articulate to a larger organization how you can help them solve their problems, just like you would if you are currently selling to individual consumers or other business owners. You don't have to be introvert, you don't have to be extroverted, but you do have to be clear. And many of us are not clear on our messaging. And if you can't say to someone in 5 seconds or less how it is that you help someone, then it doesn't matter how extroverted you are because you're going to be saying the wrong thing anyway.
Guilty as charged. I've definitely been there and reworked my brand and who I thought I worked with, the audience, maybe the offer, the messaging, kind of going back to square one. But I think when I focus myself on what pain point am I solving? What solutions that can I provide? And then I realize who's having those problems? How do I speak to them? And that starts to build this audience offer messaging. But once you dial that in, I feel you can scale to the bigger influence because now you're really honed in on your messaging. You know who you're targeting. You can speak to them. That kind of the process as well, where you kind of need to know a little bit before you go full influencer.
You need to know what is the problem that they recognize they have and use the language that they use. And that transcends across regardless of who your target market is. Many of us are using these cute, clever ways to describe what it is that we do, and no one is laying in bed at night saying that to themselves. As the expert, we're talking to them about the problem that we know they're really having, which is usually the underlying problem. And that's not the problem that they recognize that they have. Again, I'm dropping business gems here right now, regardless of who your target is. What is the problem that they recognize that they have? No one is just laying in bed at night, if I could just thrive. But why do we say that? There's so many people. I help women over 50 thrive. Now, what it is that you help them do may be categorized as thriving, but no one is going to recognize that that's the problem that they have. Usually when it's the mindset or technical shifts that people need to make, that's usually not the problems that they think they have. You have to ask yourself, what is the problem that they recognize that they have? And it's the same thing if you're looking to get your foot in the door with a company that generates $50 million a year. What is the problem that they know that they have? And when you approach them, you don't approach them with, this is me and how big I am and how great I am and all the people that I've helped. You have to say to them, listen, here's what I know you're struggling with. For example, you want to do training and you're talking to the head of HR. Here's one of the things that I know that top HR professionals are always looking to attract and retain good talent. I would love to have a conversation with you about how we can support one another's efforts. Like, you nowhere in there that I say, this is the name of my business. I'm certified. I've been around for 19 years. I help companies do X, Y, and Z, because they don't care about you. They only care about the problem that they are being on the line for.
That brings up a really great point and leads into some sales advice that I have learned and just experienced myself. Oftentimes we will mistake selling as, let's throw out a bunch of word salad, the features, the benefits, where they're talking 80% of the time instead of listening 80% of the time, or maybe even just asking the right questions. That way it opens up that opportunity within the discovery phase. Do you find that as well, where people are focused on just the blurting out the word salad instead of asking the right questions?
Absolutely. And here's the thing. The thing that you're talking about, this whole needs discovery conversation, happens once you get a meeting. The question is, what do you say to get the meeting to begin with? And you have to already have some idea of what it is that they're struggling with or what it is that you know that they're looking to accomplish. And that's not hard to find out. You have to speak to that in order to get the meeting. And then when you're in the meeting, ask all the questions about what it is that they're doing that's working, what it is that they're doing that's not working. What would it be like if you could solve that problem? The same type of conversations that you have if you're selling to an individual or a business owner. But if you lead with yourself and everything about you and your business, you're almost likely not to ever get the meeting to be able to ask those questions and really be able to have those deeper conversations that could move the process forward.
Absolutely. Let's assume that we have done a really good job and we have that first meeting went really well. I feel the B2B space is a little bit different and can change based on just the size of the business. I feel like sometimes you're either speaking directly to the entrepreneur or business owner versus these bigger companies. Maybe there's a board you have to present your ideas to and the department heads. Is that process different when you're working small, medium, or large businesses?
It is. You have to know who the decision maker is. The lower down the totem pole they are, the more they're going to have to sell up. You don't ever want to waste your time meeting with someone that does not have authority, that does not have decision-making power. because that would be the equivalent of someone tries to sell you something and then you now have to go back and try to sell it to your spouse. And of course, it's a no because they don't understand it. They didn't have the opportunity to ask any questions. They didn't even have the opportunity to give any input at the beginning as to what it is that they wanted. For me, if I'm looking to even attempt to have a conversation with someone, I don't talk to anybody that's not at least at director level. Ideally, I want them to be at VP level or higher, but at a minimum, I want them to be at director level because most of the time below that, they're not going to have the ability to be able to say yes to you. And then you're just going to prolong the process or never get past that meeting because then they have to go back and try to sell it to someone else. And guess what? I can almost guarantee you 9 times out of 10, they are not going to position you or what you positioned in the way that you did to them.
Absolutely. Let's assume that all of that went really well. Now we're about to submit a proposal. Maybe we kind of build ourselves into a set amount of deliverables so that it's scalable, or is it more white glove and we're going to customize it to you? Is there a certain approach you like to take? Can both be feasible, or is one just clearly better than the other?
I'm a fan of co-creation. No one wants to feel like you just took an offer off the shelf. First of all, I don't do proposals. We'll get to that in a minute, but I don't submit proposals. During the needs discovery conversation, once I have identified what their challenges are, I say, okay, now let's talk about what that could look like in order to help get you results. From then, we're having a conversation about what is that going to consist of? Is it going to consist of 2 workshops? Is it going to consist of me working with your people one-on-one? Co-create what that would look like. Now, you have to be clear on what you want to do and what you don't want to do, because if you know that you want to be in and out as quickly as possible, you don't want to set it up that you're working with people one-on-one or over long periods of time. You want the ability to be able to co-create what that solution looks like, but you also want to be clear before you go into that conversation what type of work or engagement with that customer that you would want to be willing to do and what you wouldn't. Here's why I don't send proposals. Because if you've done that conversation correctly, there is nothing that I could say in a proposal that we have not already talked about during this last hour. Sending them a proposal, or if they ask you to send them a proposal, means that you didn't do a good enough job during that meeting. What I do is, if they ask me a proposal, and here's the truth, I cannot send you anything in a proposal that we have not already discussed. But here's what I can do. What if I sent you an engagement letter that recapped what it is that we just talked about, including the investment that we just talked about? Could you get that signed engagement letter back over to me by Friday if I get it to you by tomorrow morning? And if they start stammering and stuttering and oohing and ahhing and I got to do this, I got to do that, they either don't have any intentions of working with you or you didn't do a good enough job unpacking the pain or helping them to see how you're going to deliver that solution. But no, there is no proposal at this point. I've already proposed to you during this meeting what it is that I propose that we do. And we talked about what that was going to look like together. So now why do I need to send you a proposal?
It's a great way to just get rid of those tire kickers and unserious people, or just not within the budget, and saving a lot of tears and heartache for a lot of business owners who are probably thinking about the 2 proposals that they have yet to send. And they're like, what am I doing now? I have to rethink my strategy.
Yep.
But it's probably good for them because now they're not going to have to go through that anymore, or they can change their own process to have a different perspective going into it.
Yeah, because the proposal is so painful. It's so painful. Because first of all, you're sitting there like, what should I put in it? What should I leave out? And now you've spent hours of time and ounces of stress over something that literally, what can you put in here that you haven't already talked about or that you should have already talked about? You're going to spend all this time just duplicating what it is that you've already discussed for what?
Absolutely. I kind of want to jump between, because we talked more about the middle stages of the funnel here, but going back to that first stage of the funnel, kind of filling the leads in, there can be inbound strategies. Maybe someone saw you from a podcast, or do you do more outbound strategy that the podcast then supports because they can search you online? Or do you try a little bit of everything as far as getting yourself out there and bringing in business for yourself?
It's both. I am a fan of having reactive and proactive marketing strategies. But if I just sat back and waited on somebody to find me and come to me, I would be in the food stamp line, regardless of what I was selling. And yes, you want to make sure that there's enough of a footprint of what it is you do so that people can discover you, whether they're discovering your show, whether they're discovering your social media, your blog, your website. You want to have some form of content out there so that people can discover you if you're searching for it. But I always want to be in the driver's seat. I'm always looking at what are the things that I can do? Where is my audience online and offline? And how can I go find them? When we were growing up, our mom said, don't get in the traffic because you'll get hit. Well, when you're in business, you want to put yourself in the traffic so that you can get hit or you can hit them.
Absolutely. You can't just sit there idly by and just waiting and hoping that customers will come to you. You have to be proactive with that and make those introductions. And do you find that either direct selling is really helpful? Hey, I got XYZ and it'll do this. Or are you struggling with pain point? Or are you just going out, building connections, having great conversations first, and naturally it leads into business down the road?
A version of that. I never lead with, here's what you're doing. Do you want X, Y, and Z? Because of course they're going to say no. Everybody likes to buy, but no one likes to be sold to. When you're talking about whether you're talking to somebody at a media outlet, whether you're talking to someone at a traditional publisher, if you're talking to someone at a corporation, they need to view you as their peer. The way that they can view you as their peer is that you have to speak to them in a way that demonstrates you already have an idea of what it is that they're experiencing. You have to be able to demonstrate to them that there's a commonality between you and them. Then you're extending the opportunity to have a conversation so that you can talk as peers, discuss what is working and what is not working as peers. You can discuss as peers how you support one another. You see how that's drastically different than the way people are currently pitching you, the people that are in your emails, the people that are in your LinkedIn after you get their connection request. They immediately jump into what you're experiencing. This is what I know you're experiencing. Do you want to experience that? Stop it.
Hard stop. No thanks. Backspace.
Regardless of what you're selling, stop it.
Yes, I totally agree. And that's why I wanted to ask someone who's been through it all, who has gone through that experience, because I feel like we're all trying to get to this top level center of influence, be the authority leader to some extent, just to get out there so people know about us. But you see them make these mistakes with the direct selling. And like you said, people love to buy, but don't want to be sold to. That shift in perspective a bit can change the way that we take that approach to our outbound or inbound strategies.
And I will say that if somebody's convinced you that you should sell that way, be real clear. I couldn't tell you the number of emails that I get, but I don't even know what you're talking about. You're trying to tell me that in this email that you're so convinced that I need this product or service, and I don't even know you haven't even been clear about what the product or service is, or you haven't even done your research to see if I do that. People will reach out to me and be like, well, you need this product or service for your XYZ. I don't even know what that is, nor do I have one. You've already shot yourself in the foot because you didn't even demonstrate to me that you took the time to make sure that I really need or could potentially need what it is that you sell. Do your homework and make sure that you're actually putting yourself in front of someone that could at least potentially have the problem that you're solving. And when you are speaking to them, make sure that you are so clear on what the outcome is. I don't care what your widget is. I don't care what your process is. I only care what the outcome is to me.
Absolutely. This is some great advice, tips, and tricks. So deep into the conversation here. I do want to ask, for those who are in the audience, where can people find you and connect with you online?
Yeah. So on social media, I'm primarily on Instagram, and I'm at Shayna Rattler Davis in there. Somebody has my new name. I couldn't just be Shayna Davis. So I'm Shayna Rattler Davis on Instagram, and then my website is shaynadavis.com.
That is wonderful. And I believe you had a freebie for us where people can go to influenceeconomyplaybook.com. Is that still available with the code FREE?
It is. But let me tell you, there's always one person that does not follow the instructions, and then they contact me and say they want their money back. When you go to the page, it's going to ask you, do you have a coupon code? Type in the word free, and then you have to click the check mark. When you click the check mark, it's going to zero it out to $0. Yes, it's going to ask you for your credit card number because that's the way e-commerce sites work. No, it is not going to charge you unless you don't click the check mark. If it still says $47 at the bottom of the page, then you know you have not followed this correctly. If you do that incorrectly and you get charged $47, do not contact me and ask me for your $47 back. I will probably give it to you, but I'm going to be more irritated with the fact that you don't follow instructions. And if you can't follow that simple instruction, you're probably not going to be able to do anything with what's in that playbook. But if you do know how to follow instructions, here's what you can expect. There's sophisticated strategies in there that teach you how to turn your visibility into profitability with these high value opportunities that we're discussing today. There's a visibility checklist on there so that you can make sure that you're doing the right things every month. And there's a calculator in there to make sure that you're actually getting a return on investment of the visibility activities that you're doing every single month. If you can follow the instructions, there's literally stuff in there that will change the way that you do business so that you can stop stepping over dollars in order to get to dimes like many of us are at the moment.
I love that. And we'll have the links available down in the show notes and the description. And I just wanted to say it louder for the people in the back. I feel like those who can follow instructions are going to do great. And those are the people you want to work with. You're almost kind of pre-qualifying them at that point. If you can't follow that, I don't think we can work together.
Correct. Nor are you going to like me because I don't understand what's going on right now. Did you listen? Did you read? And you're going to be like,
That's just the truth, Sarah, sometimes. You got to be real.
and honestly, I'm being crass, but we really do have to take the time to stop and read. If I look in my inbox right now, there's people that I reached out to customer service yesterday and I said to them, I'm not able to log in. And their response to me was, when you log in, do this, that, and the other thing. And I was not sure where this went wrong. I just started my sentence off with, I can't log in. And you start your sentence off with, when you log in. Learn how to read and follow instructions. We will post so far live.
My follow-up email would be, per my last email, I cannot log in.
I stated, I can't log in. And now I've got to wait another 24 hours for you to get back to me because you're probably somewhere in Bangladesh and it's going to be another 24 hours before you get back to my ticketing queue. Anyway.
Crazy. I wanted to ask you, we're about halfway through 2025 here. Do you have any new products or services or any new pivots that you're going to be launching? Or are you just kind of sticking with all the same tried and true methods that you've been sticking with?
What I'm doing is working, and I have such a strong conviction I want to see more small business owners win. There's a statistic that says that only 2% of small business owners ever break the $1 million mark, but that statistic goes on to say 56% of their revenue comes from big organizations. I have such a strong conviction to want to see small business owners learn how to tap into these bigger revenue streams that I don't have any plan to switch away from what it is that I'm doing now. If you're in my community, what you can expect is emails every single week that has a video of how to do this, how to do this. I'm not going to fill you with a bunch of fluff. Every time you open up my email, it's not going to be to sell you something. It's going to be to teach you something. Now, will there be offers along the way? Absolutely, because I want to invite you into higher levels of being able to get stuff done. But I can guarantee you that if you follow me on Instagram or you get on my list, that every time I reach out to you, there is going to be something of value that you are going to be able to implement. I promise you that.
I love value. I appreciate that. And just your approach to marketing and influence as a whole, your business strategies. These are tried and true methods. This is something that has worked for you and for many other people as well. And I think it's the right strategy that people should take your advice and start to implement. And if they hit a road bump, to reach out directly.
Absolutely. I'll give it to you just like I gave it to you today.
We like that, and we appreciate it. It is jam-packed with all this knowledge and tips and tricks here. Shayna, I just wanted to ask, is there anything we haven't talked about yet that we just want to open the floor up to you to share and speak with our audience?
Just a sense of encouragement that oftentimes when we're talking about securing these types of corporate clients, we have a lack of confidence regardless of how great we've done in other areas of our business and life, just because there's a little bit more unknown. But I can promise you that just like I've shown you today, if you do a few things right, it's not hard to be successful in this area. And the more you do things, the more you see that things work, that your confidence will go up. What I would say to you is that we're almost halfway through 2025. Don't let 2026 come around and you haven't at least put your toe in the water to begin to learn how you can really create these scalable and predictable income streams in your business. Because shame on you if you don't at least figure out how to start and try before you write it off. Because I can promise you that it will feed you forever if you can learn how to bring in these dollars.
Shayna, I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time from your wildly successful career to give us this advice and just tell us more about everything that's been working for you. We appreciate it so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.